Dear students, today's session is the extension of the previous class which was held in the classroom. Today's session is going to be on the neuro-linguistic programming, and in precisely we are going to speak about the presuppositions of NLP. Just a background of what is neuro-linguistic programming. NLP stands for neuro. Neuro, in simple words, if I have to tell you, is your thinking process, the way you use your senses to understand what is happening around you. L stands for linguistic, your words, the way you use your language and how it influences you and those around you. And P stands for programming, nothing but your behavior in short, the way you organize your ideas, your actions, which produce expected and unexpected results. This is something which we have already dealt in the previous class of NLP. Let's move on further. There are close to 10 presuppositions. What do I mean by presuppositions? Are assumptions of NLP on which the neuro-linguistic program stands still. The first one is the map is not the territory. This was published in Science and Scientific in 1933. The territory here means your senses like sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. And map means the internal representation of it within your brain. What does this mean? The internal map that you created of the external world are shaped by your own experiences. Your senses are gaining different bits of information every second. Now, what this brain does is, there is, as we have discussed in the class, the brain has been divided into the conscious mind. The conscious mind, what it does is it filters out the information and keeps only the ones which is needed, and it eliminates all which is not needed. The next one is people respond according to their map of the word. Now, what it mentions is when your senses are gaining different bits of information every second. Now, this is based on your values, beliefs, and memories, your experiences, your decisions, which leads to sometimes the map of the word from which one person operates may not make any sense to you, and the vice versa. Supposedly, now something has been said by somebody else, which probably doesn't make any sense to you because you respond based on your map of the word, and he responds, or the person who's suggesting you responds based on their map of the word. The next one is there is no failure and only feedback. Now, the term feedback refers to receiving input or getting a response from another person. Generally, something which we should practice in our management education is we should take feedback from others. Now, this feedback can be certain times helping us to gain a lot of insights about our own work, about something which they feel about a particular thing. Now, this would definitely take you to the next level, and sometimes the worries which we have or the failures which we have, which we tend to focus on the past and we tend to focus on the problems only, and we are not able to come out of it. Probably this feedback might help us to come out of it. Next positions is the meaning of the communication is the response it elicits. Now, what does elicit mean? Is a reaction or an answer. Now, what the author says is, no matter the intention of your communication, the success of communication depends on how listener receives the message. Now, though you would have communicated the best way, but the other person who is actually listening to you would probably uh, depends on his listening and his receiving skills, and he would read the message based on the way he understands. Further, the author says when you adopt the prepositions, you can no longer blame the other person for any misunderstandings. Now, here you always feel that possibly if there is any scope for misunderstanding, it's because of me and not because of the other person. Now, the next thing what the author talks about is start with the required end in the mind. So, what is required at the end of the conversation? You start that with that keeping in your mind, and further you think about it, and then you start from with that in your communication. The next NLP presuppositions is if you were doing isn't working, do something different. Now, this is one of the simplest to understand. If something is not working for you, do something in a different way. If you are stuck with something, using this preposition, you can recognize that changing tactics is better than continuing to uh, beat your head against a wall or do something different. You need to understand more about your present situation. So, what can you do is do differently to get the desired results. That is what this preposition speaks of. The next preposition speaks of is individuals have all the resources they need to achieve their desired outcomes. Now, uh, it is something to do with a positive prepositions. What it says is each individual, whomsoever it may be, he has all the animations to go ahead and fire it as and when needed. So he had all the potential to develop and grow. That is what this preposition speaks of. And it further says also that everyone do have the necessary internal resources to acquire new and internal as well as external resources. Now, we only have created we have only have created ourselves the boundaries or the borders through which we don't actually would want to come out of it. But what this prepositions or assumption speaks of is if you desire to, you can acquire a lot of new internal as well as external resources, which can help you to come out of with the outcomes or with the results which are expected. So it's all in the mind, as it has been said that just make sure that you run through and you get the best out of you. The next prepositions is every behavior has a positive intent. Now behavior as the way we speak of is people can have a positive behavior which is always a good behavior, and people would want or expect this behavior to be there with them. But there are a lot of times there are where we have a behavior which is a non-productive behavior or a bad behavior, where this also has as this preposition says that it also has some better things. Now, what do I mean by a bad behavior is the bad behavior can probably get something out good from individual. Now, with the bad behavior, the author says that the positive intention behind it is called as a secondary gain. Now, what do I mean by secondary gain is secondary gain is the benefit someone gets unconsciously from a particular behavior that normally considered to be bad. Now, what this prepositions speaks of is very simple, that every behavior, be it positive or negative behavior, the negative behavior has something positive intent, And how is this positive intent? Is someone who is watching it consciously feels though that this behavior is not a good behavior, and I learn from others that that this behavior probably is dangerous, and I should avoid it as an individual. That is what this author assumes, and he talks of. Next, prepositions is about people are much more than their behaviors. Now, what is this assumption speaking of? The point is that behaving badly isn't making someone a bad person. Now, he says differentiate between or separate the behavior from the person, and look at the person. There might be a situation in which, because of which a person is behaved in a particular situation, because of a particular situation. Maybe he's behaved badly with you, or maybe there was some circumstances which made him to behave like that. So what this assumption speaks of is, take out behavior and take out the personality or the person remains the same, and behavior keeps on changing situation to situation. Now, if people can behave badly when they don't have to, when they don't have the inner resources or the ability. Further, he says, the author says, is helping these people develop skills or capabilities to move to a learning environment can change their behaviors over a period of time. The last two the last two assumptions are, the mind and the body are interlinked and they affect each other. Now, it is some very simple assumption what the author comes up with, and he says that the mind affects the body, and vice versa, the body affects the mind. So the author says that you need to keep your body as well as mind stable, so that when the body wants you to actually work towards your mind, it definitely does, and vice versa is also true. And the last presumption is, modeling successful performance leads to excellence. Now, what it says is, someone who does very well replicate what he does. Now, there are a lot of experiences, there are a lot of behaviors we tend to observe. Now, those behaviors become models to you, and what you tend to practice in your life is obviously follow those behaviors, follow the good things what you learn from others. Now, that will make you a better person, and the mind would be quite stable, and your conscious mind would tell you to do a lot of good things when you watch the good behaviors of others. Now, these are the 10 presumptions on which NLP is found, and there are a lot, but I thought these are the 10 which are quite important. And if you have any questions, you can probably send a WhatsApp to me or a mail to me. Now, we have the next or the last thing about NLP, which talks about the 4 pillars of NLP. Now, the 4 pillars are RAPO, second one is sensory awareness, third one is outcome thinking, and the last one is behavioral flexibility. Now, what is RAPO? Most of you know what is RAPO. How to build a relationship with others and with yourself is probably the most important gift that NLP gives you. Now, with NLP, if you study NLP in a very nice way, if you practice NLP on a regular basis, what you can do is you can create a lot of rapport, not only with others. You can impress them, and you can build a nice portfolio about your things, and they would make sure that they follow you. And second is the sensory awareness. The sensory, if we've just spoken some time back, there are 5 senses, and these 5 senses, that is the sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste, can probably do a lot of things. Now, what it says is, you should be aware of your senses, and if you're aware of your senses, it can definitely benefit you. The third one is outcome thinking. Now, what is outcome thinking is the principles of our outcome approach that can help you make the best decisions and choices. Now, whenever we are doing the basic, or we are practicing NLP, the neuro linguistic programming, we have to think of the outcome, and based on that we have to work. Now what the author says further is, think about what you want, probably what is the desired result, expected result from you, and based on that start. And instead of getting stuck in a negative problem, start with positive end in the mind, and things will fall in place. That is what the outcome thinking speaks of. And the last one is behavioral flexibility, the fourth pillar of NLP. Now, what is behavioral flexibility? It is something to do with discovering how do you do something different when you want your currently doing isn't working. Now, what does this mean here is in a very simple way. Something which is not working for you, just try to be a little flexible. And if you are being flexible, the best thing is you can do wonders with this NLP technique. Now, find fresh perspectives and build aspect. That is what the first assumption speaks about, is build a lot of rapport. Simultaneously, take a lot of feedback from others, learn from others. And if you are being flexible in your things, the behavioral aspects also keeps on changing. So these are the four pillars of neuro linguistic programming. And what are the advantages of neuro linguistic programming? Obviously, when you study in neuro linguistic programming and you practice it on a quite regular basis, the first thing what you get is a sense of personal power. You start feeling far better than others, and you can create a lot of good rapport with others. That is something which you tend to do. Your own interpersonal skills starts increasing in a far better way, and you can become a very good communicator with the help of NLP. Now, the second one, the advantage of NLP is increased self-esteem and increased self-worth. When we feel that we are doing good, the confidence takes us to the next level, and we feel worth of what we are doing at that point of time. The next one is greater social confidence. Uh, as we are in a bigger public place, or we are surrounded by many people, we tend to have a greater social confidence. We can speak a lot of things with confidence, and that makes us to be um, that makes us to be standing out of the crowd, and it makes us to lead the things. It makes us to think from a very different perspective. The next one, obviously, it gives us a better health, and because of better health, a lot of because of a good health, our mind tends to progress in a better position. As one of the prepositions speak of, is the body affects the mind and the mind affects the body. So you need to control both your health and mind. And the last one is freedom from fears and negative thoughts. Now, when you practice NLP on a regular basis, something which you tend to get is you tend to move away from fears, you tend to move away from the negative thoughts. Now, there are a lot of instances, there are a lot of times where you would probably get stuck with the negative thought. NLP is something which makes you to come out of these fears and negative thoughts, and it takes you towards the confidence and positivity. So practice NLP, and there are a lot of advantages when you practice NLP. So this is something which I thought I should be able to tell you about the advantages of NLP. If you have any questions, please do WhatsApp me or mail me or speak to me. Okay. This is Harshal Borgaon signing off from the first class of neurolinguistic programming on YouTube. Thank you.